I represent DJI, and they kindly asked me to shoot a film for them, and my daughter came up with a short script. It's divided in two. We shot for about 6 hours one day, twilight or late afternoon into dusk. The cops didn't show up, so we never got the dusk. We ended up shooting it, you know, at 11 o'clock at night. It was pitch black. Cranked it up to, I think it goes to 5,000 ISO, so it was a little noisy, but it's not too bad. So here it is.
Hey, where are you? So, we got the warrant for the house, and we're headed there now. Alex, remember, you're still undercover, so do not approach the house. Hey, I mean it, Alex. Please, we've got to follow procedure on this. Call me back.
Please be there. Where are they? Is she there?
Yeah.
Alive?
Yeah. Wow. We got lucky.
That was too close, Charlie.
Oh man, too close.
Too close. Yeah.
Yeah, too close.
I thought it was a really nice story, and so many Native Indians go missing every year, and nobody gives a shit. It's America. So this was our wall. Sam was kind enough for a tiny amount of money to build a wall for us outside in his parking lot. And of course, because it was outside, we had to wait till night. So the camera, we shot plates. We had 3 cameras doing plates simultaneously as we were rolling. So all the close-ups were done later. And plates were like this, and we could have done all kinds of moving things, but in the end, we didn't. So we were using one pro light as my sunlight to emulate the sunlight. And so I thought they matched pretty well, and it was great to be able to go over and dial not just bicolor, but have full color control to match the plate that we finally were playing back through Resolve on the screen. So you see it again there. It was her key light, and this is her from the movie. This is the match, and you see the field behinds and so on out in the desert, cop cars, and the night flashing, blue flashing on and off. We used some tubes made by Quasar Science, double rainbows. We could say good flashing in them. We moved them around, and I had the master camera, had a set of wheels controlling it. It's an amazing camera, but that's another topic. So Sam made these plates for a job, and I just grabbed them. And these are all shot at 32,000 ISO on Sony Alpha 1s. He's concluded with extensive testing that gives him the very best noise control and exposure. He's running the camera at about 8 because he wants full depth of field. And he's a pixel whore, so they're 8K files. These things shove together and resolve so easily that you can manage it. And my whole thing was to say, I have a monitor and I'll get 4 little iPhones and we'll point at different parts of the scene to play with different aspects of the light. This is the app which you saw Dedo using. You can now zoom in and you can control intensity with the light. And if we get time, we'll go back there and show you a tiny stupid setup because it's just a small monitor and I don't really have a car or anything. But this, on the other hand, is the sophisticated controller, this Mad Mapper. Let me tell you that if you're dealing with these volumes, people want you to do 16K across the horizontal. And you need a supercomputer, $15,000 worth of computer to handle the playback and to handle Mad Mapper. Actually, the new Macs will handle it pretty brilliantly. The Studio, maxed out Studio does an amazing job with Resolve. But you have the ability to, you see the little boxes up there, that represents a light. And you can add any number of lights that you want. And then they're just looking at the scenery that's going by and they're very accurately tracking it. Just the same as the iPhone does, but this, I think, does it more accurately. And what Sam's people have concluded that this has now become a union job. It's about to become a union job in LA as a playback operator because there's such an intensive amount of knowledge that's necessary to handle this volume when you're on set and everything goes wrong and everybody says, why aren't we rolling? And it's costing you up to around $100,000 a day in a big volume, which I'll show you in a second. So Mad Mapper. And they put a little diffusing filter on it so that the lights have a more organic quality to them because electronically they can be too crisp. So this is him at his setup. This is a whole thing that you have to push around, which weighs 1,000 pounds. But behind the set now, you see these guys. Oh, what was that? Oh, Sam's little promo reel. Crazy, I don't know how much you can stand of it. This is Our Flag Means Death for Taika Waititi. It's an HBO show about, wow, and then there's just Madness, which you've already shown. I needn't really run this, but you get the idea. A lot of pizzazz and fun stuff gets done, but the realistic thing is that whereas there are $18 million walls out there, and I'll show you a little of that, Sam's idea is that you would have a wall that's about 20 foot, that's on wheels, and he's doing shows already like that where all the driving work is done. When I was on 24, every episode of an hour, we had 10 to 20 minutes sometimes of talking in cars. So we were always needing to do the same thing. And what we ended up doing was doing plate assembly on DV cams. Who remembers DV cam? Oh my God. And we had 9 DV cams on a car, and we'd drive through the route, and then we'd put them in a manila envelope and pull them out. We had 2 Ike projectors and 12-foot screens that were 8 foot high, and we would back project and move them and overlap them and hide the seam in the back of the car. But, there's no question. By the way, that's a 170-foot wall that was several $1 million. And Sam went and shot C plates. You see him with a rig in the end here. Oh, it might have already gone through. I think it's gone through already. Yeah. Anyhow, you get the idea. So he wants to do smaller stuff. So this is a Sony wall, which is $800,000, but it's 3 times more expensive than anybody else's wall, but the color is spectacularly good. So consequently, this is shot on the with pro lights as the keys and keynote flows just for a little fill. It's hard to tell that you weren't there. This does an amazingly good job. And, your XY coordinates, you don't need to worry about them because the screen is actually that good. But it's also Sony, and it's expensive. This is how they float the screen. He's got a little laser projector on that little struts coming down from that 20 by, and it's just an ultra bounce, and they're projecting the up angle onto the screen. So all those fiddly things. But studios like to be able to do 5-6 pages of dialogue on a stage like this and knock it off in half a day, and it's way more efficient than going out on the road. There's cops alone cost you $5,000 a day in Los Angeles to have a vehicle being towed on the road. It's just ridiculous, and then nobody wants you to do it, and everybody's complaining. So this is another variant of this. It's called Magic Box, and they're building 10 of these right now. They open up, so inside are panels that fold out, and Magic Box becomes this. And so there's room to put a car in. And Sam has stuff online on his Instagram page. You can see more of this. Obviously, it's easier to work with a smart car, but Pro Lights, he's totally gone over to Pro Lights. And DPs that are working on his sets have totally embraced them, because once you have Mad Mapper hooked in, they'll do exactly what you want them to do. So more, oh, he's in there twice. So his rig is the A1s. That's what, with an arm from DJI and a black arm. One in front, one in the back, and you've got 360 covered, and then do whatever you want with the files. You can either do green screen and composite them, because still that works. This was my son's rig, Lumix. In the old days, we did a movie in 2015 with these guys, which was, this is a green screen comp, and it's so beautiful when you have control, but it's so expensive and it takes so long. And people want to have it finished right away, which was our advantage on 24. Everybody came to us and we taught them how to do it because they wanted it finished in camera. At the end of the day, they didn't have to touch the files. If you have a lot of money and you're on a Marvel movie, this is the car. There are 19 red Monstros on this car. Every one of them has a spinner because so much of their work is done in the rain. They'll wet down to get more effect, at night especially. And they told me there was a $500,000 rental on that movie that they were doing just for the red cameras. Crazy. So don't give up on blue and green screens, right? Because they can be enormous. We had to put this up twice because the Monstro broke. And the red people don't like me because of that. It wasn't my fault, but what can I say? This was in Kuwait City on the outskirts. People love to use it in fantasy film. It's hard to ignore. This is a rig in New Zealand that's about 25 containers, or maybe there's more, actually, I can't remember exactly. But it's all about ghouls and lots of plate work. Armies attacking. And this goes back to Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's epics. It's a big, imposing, useful tool. Blue blow-up versions in Montreal because you have another army attacking and you need to take care of it. Anything you don't want to see, you just put up some 20 bys and way it disappears. Train tracks, you're trying to drive in the cab, so you need it to be moving. Nothing that you don't know about. The old man from Dallas, bless his heart. And this was fun because we couldn't get the Technocrane into amongst the close-ups, and the oars were in the way. So we ended up having to go back and just fake it. I did the series in Hawaii, and before myself and the other DP showed up, they'd already shot a backing plate and had it printed on canvas and hung it. And we came and said, "Are you crazy? How is this going to work? Just explain. This is a wide open space. We're shooting, it's a home set, and you expect us to photograph that and have it be believable?" Well, we never ever shot it in the end. It just hung there for a month, and we were told to wait, and eventually, of course, we got our screens. But it was a little bit of madness, nobody talking to nobody else. That's the reality. You know, it's hard to beat, and it's one of the reasons why Sam likes to shoot real plates versus what's coming, of course, is Unreal Engine. I miss shooting in Hawaii. It was a lot of fun. And of course, we had to deal with this car, but that was fun too. On 24, we had 9 or 10 years of doing these plates. The biggest problem was to get rid of the bloody rear view mirror, because it was always in the way, and they're very hard to get rid of. But that was what we did. The blacks weren't great, because it was a rear screen projector, and we had a little bit of, we had to light it, of course, and it was poor man's, but in fact, there were always 8 or 9 grips and electrics, spinning lights and waving flags in front of, which is still going on, as I saw in your video. But now we've progressed to 5Ds, and now Sam's using the Sony's. Plate collection all over. So this is an $18 million wall, brand new in LA. This costs you $100,000 a day. And if you want to build an asset, and for this demo, they built 2 assets. It's a 15-week build with a team of 3D people to, every time there's a prop in the shot, and then they switch the wall on, and that's what it became. Every prop has been 3D scanned. It's into a file. It goes into the wall. And yes, you can move things around, but when you do that, you break the wall. The blue line is the frustum, which is the actual frame that is being photographed and has a higher resolution. It's put out to the frustum so that you get the highest res. But these are $100,000 a day. So how you get there is amazing. Baz Iadine, another Kiwi, won Emmys this year for Mandalorian, and he and Greg Fraser, had absolutely no idea what they were doing when they first went on this toy land. And I've been told that it cost over $80 million the first season of Mandalorian for the wall alone. But here's the rub. Every episode had $1 million additional of ray tracing because they changed their mind about what they wanted in the background. How classic is that? So beware, it's a bit of a trap. Yes, you can put lights up wherever you want, but then they become a big spill issue. These are not, so I'm not really good at extracting files. They were the iPhone in 4K, and they should be better looking, but you can bring in blacks and so on to change. So all of that's possible, but every time you ask for it, it takes 5 minutes. So it's a bit of a killer in terms of time. However, you know, there are some worlds that you just can't replicate on Earth. So we watch them do this, and now, of course, Mandalorian itself, and you're in a different space. It's the same volume, the same expense, the same build time. So Sam really believes that the small walls are a lot more possible for us, and we're loving the way the Pro Lights behave in that experience. He lit almost nothing in this. It was all lit because he had a silver helmet, and every time he put up a light, you saw it in the helmet. So it became volume lighting, and then everybody sort of thinks that's the only way you need to light. But you can hard light, and you can interact, especially if stuff is moving. This is the classic Star Wars epic, and going to warp speed. So, but this is what the future is, Unreal Engine 5. It's free to download, free to play with, and this is, if you want to take a picture of that, where to find this particular set of images. There's a whole world out there, that literally a city that's about 50 city blocks that you can download and drive anywhere in it, change any time of day or night, add people, add cars, whatever you want to do. And this is what that looks like. And it's pretty amazing. So if you want to be in Botswana, but you don't have the money to travel, you can probably find that someone's building downtown in Kampala or someplace that you might not easily get to, and there'll be plates. So it's pretty exciting, heady stuff. And Dedo's the child man who loves this. I love this. And frankly, if we're in the cinematography business and lighting business, we all love it, you know. My son couldn't figure out how to not bang into cars. You probably know, right? So thank you.
Thank you.